wife went to the store this morning and said that the line extended from the checkout counter literally to the back of the store. So
Boy.
people are really out there.
They heard how much we were going to get, and they rushed right out.
Hopefully things will quiet down in the next hour or so as people just want to get off the roads. Let's see how bad it is right now and how bad it might get with Joe Choppy at the map. Joe?
Well, guys, we've got a long way to go because we're just getting started. There's about an inch or so on the ground in most spots, a little bit less as you head into Suffolk County. But you ain't seen nothing yet. We're just getting started. The big snows, and you can on the radar loop, they're coming up. Down from central New Jersey, Newark has moderate snow with 3/8 of a mile visibility, and it's moderate to heavy snow everywhere across southern New Jersey. Look at these yellows and reds. That's incredible intensity that is coming up. You get that tropical, that rich tropical moisture comes into the bitter cold air, and the atmosphere just can't handle it, and it just starts dumping out all this snow. And it's one of those rare instances where every ingredient just comes together. You have to remember, folks, just to put this into perspective, and we'll just move along here. We go many times an entire winter without seeing a storm like this, and we have gone entire winters not to having total snowfall for a whole 4-month season that we're going to get out of this one single storm. Just take an entire winter's worth of storms climbing into one, and you may very well see it out here. All of this dark green, so that's a steady, moderate snow or borderline moderate snow over Long Island. The darker greens right around Trenton, Morristown. Newark's right about here, so they're on the edge of the heavy snow. Wrightstown has heavy snow. Heavy snow down in Atlantic City as that rain snow line begins to creep slowly northward from Maryland into southernmost Delaware. Not an issue for us in this forecast, though. Temperatures in the teens, a couple of spots now inching up toward the 20-degree mark as West Hampton Beach is at 20 at Great Neck. When we get into those heavy snows in the next few hours, these temperatures will probably drop off another degree or two. So the issue with the temperatures for us is that it's another ingredient for a blizzard, and that you have to have temperatures in the teens to near 20. Here's our satellite loop. Moisture from the Gulf of Mexico right on up to the northeast. Right back to here in Kentucky, that twisting motion continues to be the very strong upper air storm. And this feature is becoming, the storm system is becoming the dominating force in the atmosphere throughout the United States, in that energy in the Pacific Northwest that would normally be strong enough to take this system and just kick it out and get rid of it, or at least move it along. It doesn't have the strength to do it. We have to wait probably until later tomorrow or tomorrow evening before this whole thing just finally begins to shift eastward off the New England coast. So blizzard conditions, we'll have near blizzard conditions this afternoon. We will definitely have full blizzard conditions tonight and for at least half of tomorrow into tomorrow afternoon. And when it's all said and done, there are going to be 2-foot-plus snows just about everywhere. So, folks, just try. If you don't have to go out, just stay indoors, especially tonight if we have whiteout conditions. Heavy snow and windy this afternoon, 15 to 22. And then tonight, when we really get into the heavy snow, we'll be putting it down at 2 to 3 inches an hour easily. Blinding snows, gale force winds, and more of the same tomorrow, 18 to 24. If we have to up these numbers, it's hard to believe that we could actually conceive of raising the 18 to 24. It gets to the point where really an extra couple inches here and there is not going to make a huge amount of difference. 22 to 27. Now, the coastal waters, very important. Storm warnings are up. Coastal flood warnings also in effect. Northeast winds 30 to 50 knots. 12-foot seas on the ocean, 8 on the sound. The bay's rough. Visibility near 0. Water temperatures near 40. For the high tides, now these are the early morning, Monday morning high tides. These are the high tides, I think, that are critical. Tonight's evening high tides, there should be some minor coastal flooding, but I don't think there should be anything worse than that because the storm still has not had enough time to really crank up. But tonight, when that storm moves within 200 or 300 miles, or late tonight or tomorrow morning, when it moves within 200 or 300 miles of our south shore, it's the daytime tides tomorrow that could be a big problem. So we've picked some points out here for you. Greenport, Port Jefferson, Montauk on the north shore, Freeport, Fire Island, Shinnecock, and Montauk on the south shore. The tide spots in between, they're pretty close to some of these numbers. They'll be off by a couple of minutes because we can't really give every single point on the island. Otherwise, we'd be here for the rest of the day. Walt?
All right, Joe, thanks. Well, the snow is already causing some...
And with that, 25 years ago, and also 25 pounds ago, at least, That was my my broadcast that morning at News 12, and that was at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, January 7th, when the blizzard of '96. Today is the 25th anniversary of the blizzard of '96, and that actually is. To look back at it, I almost didn't recognize the person that was on the screen. And Joe Rayo is joined in. So I don't know if you got to see that, Joe. I ran the broadcast. Are you with me, Mr.
Yes,
Rayo?
I am. I'm still intrigued at that that look back 25 years ago.
So 25 pounds ago, too, at the very least.
I made a mistake yesterday. I think I said that I thought that you at that time had your what I called your Alex Trebek mustache.
No, I had shaved it off.
You were totally clean back then.
I was. I was indeed.
But you did a great job. I think News 12 was very lucky to have you on staff and leading. Now it was you, and it was did you did the entire 36? I mean,
well, no, I didn't do it. Well, I was there most, except for about maybe 3 hours where I got to sleep.
Right.
And Norm DeVoskin was there. Neil Avignano was there also. Yeah, we kind of handled it all the way through.
It's amazing. Just amazing.
It really was. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight and every night is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider and a provider of everything you need when it comes to dealing with blizzards like the blizzard of '96, including all the best snow melting products, highlighting Pedalo calcium chloride pellets and flakes, where the snow removal guys all tell me that that's the best stuff around. Of course, rock salt galore as Long Island's largest rock salt provider and a provider for winter storm cleanup stuff for all of the tri-state area. And in case you're down on de-icer, they have that. And if we ever get a storm big enough where it causes power issues, Omni True Value Hardware even has generators for you. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, just north of the Southern State Parkway, 631-756-1125, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. So, actually, Joe, I've got the surface maps up. I brought them up for the blizzard of '96. Since we don't have anything remotely close to that right now, these are, I always look at these types of stories. These are generational events. You see them once in a lifetime, and that was truly, I think, on my list. If I had a list of top five, that is, I would probably put that at a tie at number one with the Snowmageddon storm, which for me, because that was more for me than it was for areas to the west and to the north, certainly. But definitely either number one or number two in my career. And certainly number one in my career in terms of what I've done on the air.
Well, for me, I was mostly radio for a good number of years, and the snowstorm that I remember that stands out was the megalopolitan storm of February 1983, which happened 38 years ago. And on that particular instance, I was on WABC radio from 1:30 in the afternoon all the way through to 5:30 the next morning, doing hits every half hour or hour at times. And I shared the spotlight back then with people like Dan Ingram, Dr. Judith Kuryansky. I don't know if you remember her.
I remember, sure.
And the late Alan B. Combs.
Yes, Alan Combs, yeah.
And Alan Combs thought it was funny. At 2:30 in the morning, he brought on somebody who claimed to have forecast the storm using what he called astrometeorology, the movement of the moon and the planets. And he asked me to chat with this gentleman, and I did not want to because I was, number one, too busy. And number two, I just didn't really believe in his methodology, this gentleman. And the producer of Alan B. Combs' show was excited about that. He said, "Well, this is even better. Now I really want to get you on the air with this guy." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because it's almost as good as two scorpions in a brandy glass."
Oh,
That
good
was
Lord.
his comment. And who's listening at 2:30 in the morning except during a major snowstorm? And I remember after asking this guy a number of questions, and the guy was like, well, you're not interested because you don't know how to do this sort of thing. And he kept calling me Joe Mayo. I guess, well, I guess because Joe Mayo doesn't believe in my work or whatever.
Hellman's or Kraft?
Excuse me?
Hellman's or Kraft?
Actually, ironically, many years later on Seinfeld, there was an episode with a character named Joe Mayo. Every time I see that, I think about that snowstorm in 1983. But for me, that was my big snowstorm in terms of broadcasting. And that one, you were not even here for that one. You were down in
I
the
had just
deep
moved.
south.
I had just moved. It was by 3 weeks. I had just moved down south to Corpus Christi, Texas. I remember seeing, following it on the models and um, having a conversation with Alan Casper a couple of days before, and just basically, I said, you're locked for 2 feet out of this. It was one of the easiest forecasts I ever made.
It was
I
it
had
was
nothing to
easy.
lose. I had nothing to lose.
But the interesting thing about that, Joe, was that 12 hours before the storm began, the overnight run of the I forget if it was I don't know if it was the LFM or the NGM by that time. The models all of a sudden took the storm and pushed it further south, and Boston and Albany, and I think one other weather service office actually took down their storm watches and warnings because they said we're going to miss it. The storm looks like it's going to go out to sea. And in New York City, what looked to be a massive snowstorm, they still were going for snow in New York, but they cut into that accumulation amount rather significantly. And at 8 o'clock that morning, again, we were like 4 hours away from the first flakes falling in New York. At the company I was working for at the time, we did the weather for the sanitation department of New York. And the sanitation department relied on two sources for weather. They relied on the National Weather Service, and they also relied upon us, a private forecasting concern. And after the Weather Service had pulled back on the snow amounts, I got a phone call from the deputy superintendent of the sanitation department who said, I want to let some of my men go home because it doesn't look like it's going to be as bad as what you guys were saying. And at the time, it was heavy snow from Tom's River to Philadelphia. And I told the deputy superintendent, I said, well, sir, the guy's name was Walter Hines. And I said, sir, Mr. Hines, I really would not do that. I said, from what I'm seeing, the storm, it's going hot and heavy just south of New York. I really wouldn't take the chance of pulling my men down. And he got into a real angry, because the fact that I was unwilling to join in with what the Weather Service was saying was the equivalent of a hung jury. And now he had to, since I didn't want to go with the Weather Service and pull the numbers down, he actually threatened me. He said, I swear, if you're wrong on this, I'm going to have your contract. I'm going to make sure that your company loses its contract with us or whatever.
You'll never work in this town again.
I said, please wait another few hours. Wait until the next computer run comes out, which was at 11 o'clock or whatever. And we did. And guess what? All of a sudden, the models changed their mind and went right back to what they were saying for much of the week, which was a massive storm. And by noontime, it started to snow in Staten Island. 1 o'clock, the snow reached like Midtown Manhattan. By 1:30, it was a wall, Joe.
Yeah.
It was a wall of heavy snow falling, and basically our company we were heroes. And in fact, back here I have on my wall from the Miami Herald an article about the blizzard of '83, and they also mentioned my name a few times. Later on, Mr. Hines, who was so angry with me before everything happened, he referred to me as the loquacious Joe Rayo, because I was sending out all of these. I was going crazy that day and evening. I was sending out all kinds of statements and updates on, we're up to 14 inches at JFK, 17 inches at, it was crazy. And just like for you, that storm in 1996 will be the memorable one for you. That storm of 83 was a memorable one for me. I guess everybody who's in this business always has one storm that they always remember that will stand out above all the others. And until we get one that equals or matches or rivals 96 or 83, it's always going to be up at the top for the two of us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No question. And then the other one that sticks in my head for a different reason, and that was I think it was February, I want to say 2003
The
storm.
President's Day storm.
Yes,
President's Day storm number
because
2.
I was sick as a dog, Joe. I had 103 fever on that Sunday, and I had to go to a baptism, which I was forced to go even while I was sick. And from there I was forced to go to work that day because they wouldn't ask a certain person to fill in for me because it was a Sunday.
Right.
Okay, so I had to go into Manhattan. I mean, think about this. I had to drive from Long Island, go into Westchester for a baptism party, then go into Manhattan with sick as a dog, and I didn't have sick days because I was just a weekend. I worked the weekends, so I didn't have sick days, and they refused to call in someone else for me, so I had to work a whole shift sick as you can, then drive the 50 miles back home.
Right.
So I was not a happy camper, and I'm, to this day that
And
was
you're lucky, that they didn't call you like when it was all coming down really hard that Monday morning, and say, "Hey, Joe, we need you here. We need you back here because
well, that wasn't going to happen.
you know."
That wasn't going to happen. Just really quick, Robert Russo hitting super chat tonight from the get-go. Thank you, Robert, very much. Joe and I appreciate it. 42 likes so far. I would like you to get me to 100, okay? Because you just saw my old show. So let's get those to 100 likes by hitting the like button. And if, of course, you should like the show before you hit the like button. And also, yeah, let's get to 100, okay? So I've got I brought up the surface map from the blizzard of 96. And, think back in December when we had that storm. It was all about the high. And in this case, it really was. I mean, we really had a very, very powerful system here that we were dealing with. But it was also all about the high, and it was an absolute powerhouse Arctic high. In fact, if you take a look at the temperatures up in Minnesota, and this was at 7. This was not in the morning, folks. This was. I don't know if you could see the numbers. I'm zooming in. This was at Sunday evening of Saturday evening, okay, at 7 o'clock. And temperatures were running between 15 and 20 degrees below zero across the eastern Dakotas and across Minnesota around this very large 1043 high. And then there was an extension of that that was parked up just right north of, west of Plattsburgh, so just right on the St. Lawrence River, a 1036 high, and we had temperatures running between -5 and -10 in upstate New York. Down near the coast, it was in the teens and low 20s, and then you got this wedge that wedged all the way down into Virginia and North Carolina. Temperatures at that point, with the primary low in eastern Tennessee, it was 25 at Raleigh-Durham with snow falling there. Temperatures mostly in the 20s and low 30s across North Carolina. I mean, this was really a very, very strong Arctic air mass. And in these types of storms, in these big storms, that's a key ingredient. You have to have some kind of Arctic high built over to the north of you. And this was perfect. I mean, this was absolutely perfect. And oops, I made a mistake. I hit the wrong button. Oh, good Lord. Hold on. Oh, good. No worries. It didn't. I didn't click it correctly. And now, of course, it's switched. So hang on. Let me go back. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go to 96, and we'll go to January 7th. And this map here was actually at night, so I'll just roll it back. Let's roll it back to Sunday morning. So Sunday morning, you had a dying primary in eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina. The secondary was forming down in South Georgia, and the coastal front running up to just east of Norfolk, Virginia. And of course, your high to the north is wedging down. You can see the tight gradient there. And this was at about 2 hours before the snow got underway here at my house on Long Island, which is when it started about a little after 8 o'clock. I think it was like 8 or 8:30. I just left to go into News 12, and I got there, um, you know, fairly quickly. We went on the air, and then it was nonstop. And you could see the storm. This is every 3 hours now. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the secondary had taken over, and you were just going like crazy. Tight pressure gradient, blowing away at 30 to 40 miles an hour with higher gusts.
And I recall, Joe, 8 o'clock, 8 or 9 o'clock at night, or sometime during the overnight hours, there were thunder snows.
Oh yeah, we had thunder snow. We had um, uh, the winds were something awful. We had the warm advection ahead of it, so we had to put down about a foot of snow, and then it just kind of lightened up for a couple of hours around midnight, and then we waited for the upper low to come along, and that started the snow on the backside during the early morning hours on Monday, and that continued until the last flake fell as I left at 4. I left News 12 on Monday afternoon about a little after 4 o'clock or 4:30, and I drove with snow all the way home. And when I got to my house, the last flake had fallen, and it was gone. By this was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You can see the low was. The main low was petering out, and now a new low was redeveloping out to the east, which is usually how it happens. And yeah, it was.
You had to go in the next morning?
I don't know if I did. I don't quite remember if I had to go in the next morning. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't recall throwing a fit because they were going to make me work the next morning. I think if I had to work the next morning, I would have remembered that. I would have remembered that because I would have been really angry if that were the case. One of the odd stories, and we'll finish up with this, but one of the odd stories, it was like one of those moments where you go do 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 do. So I got home. Now my youngest daughter was barely 6 months old, and no, my driveway was untouched, completely untouched. There was about 2.5 or 3 feet of snow plus drifts, and then the town had plowed several times, so they had plowed all the snow in along the curbs, so the driveway had like a wall of 5 or 6 feet. And I got out of and I was exhausted, and I thought, oh my God, I have to clear all this out. And I just in frustration, I just looked up at the sky and I said, God, please help me. I can't do this. And right after I said that, Joe, I'm not kidding. Right after I said that, I hear this revving loud motor, and a town truck turns the corner and drives up the street, and I flag him down, and I asked him if he would use his gigantic truck to plow out my driveway, and I made it worth his while, which he did. And turns out he was one of the big bosses for the town. And ever since, ever since then, my street always was one of the first streets that got plowed out in snowstorms for the next 10 or 15 years until the guy retired.
Of course, that was the same thing. All during the years I was after I'd moved here to Putnam Valley, I got very well acquainted with the highway department, and they knew that I had to get into work, especially during snowstorms or during impending snowstorms. And my road was always one of the first places that you would see the plows come up or down the road to clear away the snow. And kiddingly, it's at some functions, I'd see the guy, the head of the highway department, he'd say, well, he said, we always say, we got to get Joe Rayo to get out there.
Exactly.
So
Damn.
it's always good to have connections, right?
Oh, absolutely, no question. All right, let's take a look at this. We've got a winter. We've got a winter storm. There's always a winter storm going on somewhere in the winter time. At least we think. And by the way, for New York City, their final number at the park, per the chairman Scott Briller, who just messaged me, was 20.2, and it was the sixth highest snowfall on record. So, and I know I got every bit of 24, 25, maybe even more than that. I never, who knew at that point? I got so good at it though. I got really good at eyeballing, and I could eyeball a snow total accumulation within an inch most of the time.
Wow.
So yeah. After a while, you've seen enough of them, you kind of know just from looking. You could tell from how much snow is piled up on the side from what the snowplow guys do, and it gives you an idea of just how much total snow you got. So let's take a look at what's going on down south, because they are getting snow, and in fact, some places. I got the latest snowfall forecast map, which I'll bring up in a moment. Just give me a chance to switch here, and we'll switch back over. And there you go. So we are looking at the Western Carolinas, Eastern Tennessee, down into Northeast Georgia, and up into Southern Virginia. And they're going to be some of the higher peaks above 3,000 feet, and getting up to a foot of snow in some of the mountains north and south of Asheville. They've upped numbers for places like Raleigh, for Winston-Salem, for Greensboro, going for about 3 or 4, and going for about 2 or 3 in southwestern Virginia, and even going for up to 3 inches in northeastern Georgia. So I know it's frustrating for snow lovers when we see snow falling in places where they don't get snow very often, but when you've got a very, very strong block like we have at the moment, it should not be a surprise. And winter storm warnings are up now from northeast Georgia on through the western part of North Carolina. And also, actually, they've extended this. There we go. I'm adding the extra counties by just moving the time along to 5 a.m. Winter storm warnings all the way to Winston-Salem, then Greensboro, on up into southern Virginia. Winter weather advisory surrounding all of this. And we're not getting this. This is not coming here.
Yeah, well, the folks from, it looks like from, Asheville, for example, likely to get, what would you say, 4 to 6 inches?
Yeah, and I think, the mountains on either side will probably definitely get 6 plus.
Yeah.
At least the
The
way
Blue
it
Ridge
looks.
Mountains.
The Blue Ridge, yeah.
Yeah.
You look at this satellite, and I mean, it actually is rather impressive looking in terms of the satellite signature here. You got a nice looking swirl. There's a pretty solid shortwave trough here, and if you didn't know any better, if you look at those high clouds pushing up into Virginia and still moving northeastward, you would think that we would get something out of this. But the problem is, if you look on the upper right of the satellite loop, I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it. Guess what? That is still, not only, Joe, is that still Sunday's storm, but you know that they were talking today about the fact that this might be a hybrid storm, and
sort of a tropical system.
Yeah, some kind of subtropical system, because I mentioned last night when we looked at the loop, there was a nice little ring of convection that was developing around it. And I remember while I was saying it, it's like, am I really seeing what I'm seeing here? Should I be saying that or not? But Bill Goodman sent me something earlier today, and that this thing may very well be some kind of hybrid, or a little some tropical characteristics to it. The thing is, it's still there. It's all part of the block, and because that thing is up there, there is no room. This is only going to be able to get so far north before it gets shoved out to the east.
Boy, wouldn't that be something if it wound up enough to acquire even a subtropical status and get a name already we're only like 7 days into the new
into
year,
January.
and already we're starting with the names already.
Well, on the Canadian loop, it comes up a little better. I just refreshed it, so it's trying to load up the extra frames. So naturally, when I want to see the darn thing spin, it's not. It's run into its own traffic jam. There you go. But you see it. You see that little there. There's a couple of bad frames in there, but you see that little coil there, the coiling. There's some convection that's developed around it. But there's your block in motion, folks, or not in motion, as it just continues to spin around there. And we've got I got the zoom radar. I think this radar, Joe, when you see it come up on the screen, it looks very nice. Uh, the it has the radar, and I've got the temperatures overlaid on it. Some temperatures overlay on it, and we're starting to see that the colder air to the north, where the air is not really that cold to its north, but it is going to with between some dynamic cooling and a little bit of cold air advecting southward. We're starting to see that rain changing over to snow up west of Chattanooga and moving eastward. So we'll see the snow area gradually increase. Meanwhile, we've got some heavier rains back into South Carolina, down into southeast Georgia, and into northern Florida. Some of that rain pushing northward down to parts of North Carolina. But of course, as we move up the coast and you take a look at what's going on over us in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, the radars are quiet. Temperatures, that's not that cold. Really, it's in the mid 30s. Even a few spots are still holding on to the 40-degree highs that occurred earlier today. And I'll just get this a little wider so we can see what's going on elsewhere. If there's anything going on in the west, and we'll have to wait for the radar echoes to finish loading. And for some reason, I don't know, the echoes in the west haven't really loaded up here. So bottom line is...
But all we're going to see from this here is maybe some high clouds, but that's about all, because it looks like, again, thanks to that block, everything's going to stay just off to our south.
Yep. WPC on their forecast, this was from, I'm just going to give this a quick refresh. This was actually from 4 o'clock this afternoon, just in case they update it, because every once in a while they do throw in an update in there, but I don't, this time around, I don't think they did. So this is what they're doing with respect to the probability of at least 2 inches, and we're looking at 80 to 90% probability of at least 2 in western North Carolina, the 50% line to the North Carolina-Georgia border. And this is the probability of at least 4, and they have a 70 to 80% probability in that bright blue area of at least 4 in western North Carolina. I think Asheville's probably in that. And for 8, they're not really showing too much here for 8, just a 5 to 10% chance, and I imagine that's some of the mountaintops in western North Carolina. And if you've never been in western North Carolina, those mountains get pretty high. They got some tops going up to 5,000 feet or more, so there is some solid elevation there. And the low, as we said, is going to be moving out to the northeast, and I'll bring up the, we'll look at the NAM first. And we'll take a look at what it's doing. And then we'll come back to the GFS. That's in the long range, folks, so don't get excited yet.
So the only thing I would be, if I really wanted to get excited about something, I'm somewhat, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later, is the prospect for maybe a week from tomorrow. In fact, the folks over at CPC, Climate Prediction Center, have actually outlined a broad area of the Northeast, including the New York metropolitan area, for the possibility of snow. Possible when they do that, in terms of significant snow amounts, and they actually have us under a slight, but still the fact.
Well, that many days out, that's actually pretty gutsy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, at face value, when you look at it, it looks more, it looks like a cold front with an open wave that develops on it. I don't know why. Now oh, okay, they're finally starting to load. I guess everybody wants to look at the dam tonight. Why, I don't know. But you can see it here, starting with late this afternoon. There's your low, and it is, this is at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and you start to see that snow area now. It's just beginning to develop uh, tonight, and it'll gradually increase and spread out as we go through the night and into tomorrow morning. The darker blues start to show up in eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. But look where the low center goes. I mean, it goes pretty much east uh, to off the South Carolina coast. And if you on the surface map, on the upper right, what do we have? We still have the back edge of the last isobar of the coastal storm between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. The last isobar from that is Boston to Nantucket. It just will not get out of the way. And in fact, even as I move it along to Friday morning at 10 a.m., you still got those isobars out there. So it's no wonder that this thing is not coming up. You see the snow there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then gradually, as the low moves out to the east, we start to see the snow area, or we will start to see the snow area begin to fade Friday night into Saturday morning. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know why the maps are loading slowly from Tropical Tidbits. He must be having either a lot of traffic or some his servers are hung up. But after that goes out, I mean, really, it's just the same nonsense that we've had for the last couple of days will continue through the weekend. Just dry, breezy. The wind might ease a little bit on Friday, but then it's going to pick up again when that low goes out and the gradient, it gets a little tighter for Saturday afternoon and then for Sunday. And temperatures are going to be close to what they've been, upper 30s to around 40 by day, 20s to around 30 by night.
Yeah, the temperatures look like for the upcoming next week or so, they look like they're going to be near or even slightly above normal temperature wise. And it's not until that event that I mentioned for a week from tomorrow that things may actually start changing more toward a colder weather regime for a longer term of time.
Yeah. Now here's another storm that they're going to get mad. The snow lovers are going to get mad at. So here comes the next short wave in the southern stream, and we're going to see snow back through West Texas, and it looks like Dallas might get some snow out of this if the NAM is correct. And they don't get snow very often. Actually, it's a pretty solid swath of snow according to the world that the NAM creates, and even into northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and there's your low center south of the southern Louisiana coast. And I'll just switch over to the GFS, which I don't know why it's doing this, other than the fact that the upper features here are kind of on the weak side. The GFS actually loses to this system just with some showers there. There's not much to it, and then it suddenly redevelops once it's off the Carolina coast, and then that one runs out to the east because again the block is too strong. And now we can go to look at what you're talking about with Saturday, and here comes it's some kind of Arctic front, and I think what you have to look for, because it really starts to rev up when it reaches the coast Friday night. Now, if it's just a cold front, Joe, it's going to be rain. You're going to have to get one of these situations where maybe the northern part of this goes by first, you get the front through, and then you get a second wave that develops on it, and that might produce something after, as the whole system begins to pivot offshore, and it's behind this that it turns significantly colder.
Yeah, it looks like the cold air is really not going to start pouring in, even if the front or whatever it is passes by on Friday. It's not until probably Saturday night or Sunday that we're talking about now, the 16th and 17th, as the upper level winds turn out of the northwest and match up with the surface winds, that the cold air really starts pouring in, and that's probably when we're going to see a significant drop. However, if you put use some opposing model here, take a look at what the European is going for, at least in the upper atmosphere. It seems like the European is kind of suggesting that it's going to be a little bit more significant in terms of a developing wave on that front for Friday night and Saturday morning, the 16th.
Yeah, no, I'm not discounting it because it's certainly it's sometimes you get these situations where the North sort of outruns the South, and here's the GFS. I just got the GFS and the European are not that far apart here for next Friday. I mean, the GFS does have a rather deep trough that runs from northern Hudson Bay all the way down into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And there are separate short waves here, so there is a chance I think that you could maybe you get the north to come through first, and then you get a second wave that develops when the base of the trough begins to lift up to the northeast. And of course we do have a nice cold flow in the upper air after that that stays with us right through the end of the forecast period. In fact, the block gets really strong, Joe. Look at that upper high that builds up over Greenland. By the time we get to day 10 and 11, I mean, that's a really powerhouse block there. Now, look, I've seen some comments on the board, and I'm not trying to make I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but there's no. I really just get it. It drives me crazy when people can sit here and they have it all figured out for the next 6 weeks. Come on, stop. Really, just stop. It happens all the time. You look at things and you think, you make a conclusion. The default conclusion is that it's never going to snow again. That was always the default conclusion. And when you look at a dynamic pattern like this, yeah, the model's not going to have. If the model shows something specific, and you're going to back me up on this, Mr. Rayo, because I know you will. Okay. The time that you should use that statement is when the models in the long range show you bullseye snowstorms, because 99.9% of the time they don't happen. Okay,
Right.
It's when you have a situation where the upper air looks like there's some potential, and you use your imagination a little bit with regards to what's going on in the upper air in the long range. It's going to vary and be different until you get inside the 7-day time frame at the very least. I look at this and I say, okay, well, you got a good feeder of cold air, and you certainly have strong shortwave troughs that are digging down or trying to dig down, and you got this big block that's up in Greenland. I think there's room here. Maybe there might be room here for something to happen that the models are going to be picking up on.
Joe, you used to call it back in the day, when you're looking at these bullseye storms, you used to refer to them as the science fiction prog.
Yeah, because that's what it is.
And that's what it was.
And it's equally it's equally the other way when I saw somebody bringing up the MJO because you already know it's going to be in phase 6 in February. Really? You know this for a fact that it's going to be in phase, whatever phase it is, 5 or 6 or 5, 6, 7, 8. Start the dance number.
You should ask Larry Cosgrove. He was always big on.
To me, I look at what's in front of me. I understand this. Okay, this I understand. You start talking about all this other stuff going. I'm not saying it's not relevant. It is, but you can't tell me that you're going to sit here and wipe and just say point blank that nothing's going to happen for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it is. I don't know how you could approach weather with that kind of mindset. There's no fun to it. I happen to like the look at this upper air, by the way, going past mid-month. It's cold. It's dynamic. There's a lot of room here for something to happen. You're just going to have to wait we're just going to have to wait and see if there's one good powerhouse shortwave in the mix that comes down and around. It's hard for me to argue against this upper air that I got on the screen, Joe. How can you not? How can you look at that and think that you couldn't have chances in a flow like this?
No. That's whenever I see some, there's one that around the 20th of January, which ironically, of course, is Inauguration Day. But I mean, I say to myself, why, if you really wanted something to happen, why can't that one short, why can't it dig a little bit deeper? Why can't it be a little bit more
And you
difficult?
know what? It might very well just do that.
Yeah,
Here's the surface for that time, and the GFS does have some chances here. I mean, it's not like it doesn't have systems; it does have chances. Um, Again, if that block is really strong, I'm just kind of looking at this from the standpoint of how strong that upper high is over Greenland. You could run, you certainly could run the risk that the block is so strong that these things wind up getting shoved to the south. Maybe that's your biggest risk. Your biggest risk is that you will have these systems moving along, but because of the strong blocking signature that we have, that we're going to be struggling with systems going more south than anything else.
true, true. And that will be a heartbreaker for a lot of the snow lovers out there who will be seeing for the umpteenth time snow falling over Kentucky and Tennessee and the Carolinas, and even as close to us as maybe central and northern Virginia. I say, why can't we get any of that good stuff up here?
Right.
Because of the block.
Well, the GFS does have something around the 18th, 19th, and that goes by, and it's cold. I mean, certainly there's much more cold air around this time around, and then of course you've got another one. There's some kind of Arctic front that goes by around the 20th or 21st. And then on this particular run, at the very end, there's another low that's down in the Gulf states that's getting ready with a 32 plus high up in Minnesota. So look, you're not gonna see it. You're not going to see it now for something 15, 16 days from now or 10 days from now. You can only look at what the upper air is telling you. And the upper air is maybe it's not the perfect upper air, but there's enough there to say that if things break a certain way, you could get something. Let's just be really quick. Go through the teleconnections, and of course, it's the same story with the NAO. It's negative by one standard deviation uh, from the mean. It kind of inches up a little bit toward the neutral line, and then they all go negative. A couple of the members go almost two standard deviations. So the NAO continues to be in a favorable position uh, from the standpoint of being negative. The one thing that's changed a little bit is the PNA, the Pacific North America Index, which actually is positive right now. But after January 16th, you start to see a few of the members go below the neutral line. They go a little negative here. So that might be something that could be a play against. It doesn't necessarily mean it will be, but we do see the PNA going a little bit negative, at least on today's ensemble forecast. And the Arctic Oscillation, guess what? It's in the same place. It's three standard deviations, almost four standard deviations negative right now. We got this spike up into around the 14th, 15th, um, to about one to two standard deviations from the mean, and then it goes sharply negative. We got a few members that go negative, and then they start to trend up again. But the bottom line is they're pretty much all negative for the next 2 weeks. So we still have the teleconnections for the most part in places where you'd like to see them, but even here, it's no guarantee.
No guarantee at all.
Oh, and one other
Well, was there ever a guarantee beyond 5 days in weather?
no, no. And one other thing, the polar vortex, or as I like to call it, les vortex polar. I'll make this a little smaller so you can see the date. I'll roll it back. We'll have to wait for the circle of death here to play through as the maps start to fill in. Fill in, please. Come on, come on. So we just had a split of the polar vortex, and it split, and there it is. There's your split. This was today. I'm sorry. This is next week. It splits again. Let me just roll back. We just had it. There it is. We have it split. It split on Monday. It split on Sunday, and now it's kind of unsplit. And the vortex is between Greenland and Europe. It's going to actually now split again on this forecast it splits again around the 14th, and then one center goes in Siberia, a weaker center south of Greenland, and then eventually the center that's over Siberia migrates back westward to between Scandinavia and Iceland, and you start to get troughing in the stratosphere down throughout much of the eastern United States and across the northern half of the U.S. So um, I I don't know what the implications are going to be, but I know the
Wasn't
folks.
that the kind of pattern that we were seeing or was trying to evolve in mid-December when we had
Yes,
our snowstorms?
yes, and now it's doing it again. What the implications are for the long term, I don't know. I know some of the folks that have been writing about it, not the stories that are showing up on the clickbait sites, but a few of the folks that watch this every day that I read from time to time on Twitter are rather excited about these changes that are showing up on the polar vortex. So I'll defer to them. If they think it's exciting, then I'm good with that. I will think it's exciting too.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see. Did we get 100 likes?
No, we haven't.
No, I'm disappointed.
88.
88 likes. So could you get us to 100 likes, folks? It would be really nice to bring us up to 100 likes. And Joe Rayo also is likes us to be at 100 likes. Now hold on, I have to
230.
fix the. I just realized I hit the button a little fast, and the window disappeared. So I got to make a new window here. So
Yeah,
give me.
230, 230, 229, 228 people, and only 96. Well, wait a minute. Only 96. Now, there you go, Joe.
Thank you so much.
105. 111. 111, Ralph.
Yeah. Exactly.
All we need is just a
Now
little.
now it's fixed.
Yes.
If
Yes.
sometimes if I click the button, if my mouse is in the wrong place.
It's awfully dark in here, Joe.
What do you mean?
All I see is black on the screen right now.
Hold on. I got to put the bugs on. So there you go. So I know it's a Thursday night.
No, but when it gets so dark like this, I get tired.
I know. No, for some, yeah, I guess maybe because now that I'm going to be 62, I find that lately, after I eat dinner, it's not a heavy dinner usually. It's usually on the light side. I get very sleepy between 5 and 6:30, and I think I really sometimes I like, do I really have to do the show at 7:30? Because all I want to do is go to bed. But once once I uh, once I get down here and the show starts, I'm suddenly wide awake again.
But I got to tell you something. I woke up this morning, couldn't get back to sleep, so I went into the TV room, turned on the TV at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm flicking around the dial, and something I didn't even know, because I'm always watching the Inside the Eyelid show at that hour, so I'm not
Right.
watching TV. 4:30 on CBS Channel 2, they do a national anthem, just like the old days when they used
Oh,
to sign
really?
on or sign off. And it's interesting. At 4 o'clock, there's the CBS National News. They have a half hour of national news at 4 o'clock. God love whoever the woman is who is on. It's certainly not Nora O'Donnell at four
Right.
o'clock in the morning, but it is national news, which segues into the local news at 4:30 on CBS 2. But before as they're making that segue from national to local news in that 1.5 minute time frame, there's the national anthem, but it's not the national anthem that you and I grew up with, where they show a flapping flag and they just have a band playing da da da. It's a young lady. I think it's actually a girl, maybe in her teens or whatever, who a beautiful voice, who sings the national anthem while you're seeing different views of the country and different views of the flag and whatever. And I said to myself, this is so nice. 4:30 in the morning, but it's the way they're starting their quote broadcast day with the national anthem, and especially poignant this morning, coming off of the kind of day that the country had yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Noah Harley is asking about Tuesday's system as to whether it could come up the coast or not. And look, this was one where the models were initially trying to bring it up northward, but again, that block not getting out of the way. I just pulled up, the late afternoon icon model all of a sudden has decided that it wants to bring at least rain up into southern New Jersey by Tuesday afternoon. I want to just take a look real quick to see what the upper air is, because ultimately it's going to be a question of how much room there is. And that is the problem. You know, one of the problems with the thing for Tuesday is, Joe, you got too many short waves running around. There's too many short waves. They're weak. They're disorganized. The icon seems to have something a little stronger. I wouldn't completely rule it out, but I would think that models would start to come in and show it moving over us. Would have done that today. Maybe they'll do it tonight or tomorrow. But if they don't show something by tomorrow afternoon, I think we could probably start to move on from that one and go on to the next one. So
Yeah, the European I'm beginning to lose my voice. The European ensemble at 132 hours, which would be 0Z Wednesday or Tuesday evening at 7 p.m., has the storm, I would say, about 350 or 400 miles southeast of New York, which seems a tad too far for any kind of significant interaction for us. So it looks like that may very well slip out away to the east, and then we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the next system, which is probably going to be that event for Friday night into Saturday, the 15th and 16th, which may spawn something. We'll see what happens.
yeah,
Certainly, it's going to get a lot colder behind that system after next weekend.
yeah, one of the frustrating parts of watching these models the last week and last couple of weeks has been, in my mind, the European. It has been incredibly frustrating with that model. It's flipping from one run to the next. The night runs will show a snowstorm, and the day runs take it away. And it goes back and forth. It's been the model of inconsistency for quite a while now. It really has. I just don't think that model has worked very well, and it certainly didn't work well last Sunday because it had me. It seems like it's suddenly, the Europeans always had a bit of a warm bias. Well, now it seems like it has a cold bias because last Sunday it had snow over me. Um, Excuse me, and I maybe we had a couple of ice pellets at the beginning, but other than that, we never saw a flake or an ice pellet afterward. I mean, and you had to go. I mean, you had to at least go to the other side of Long Island Sound to see any snowfall. I don't know how it's behaving in other parts of the country, but from what I'm seeing for us, it's got a bit of a cold bias, and it's also been going bonkers with snow, showing storms coming up, only to have them, gone on the next run. So I don't like when models do that. I know it's because it's probably has to do a lot of it has to do with the stretched nature of the teleconnections. With this very, very strong NAO, models never behave well when we have the atmosphere in a state like it's in now. So I'll give it that, but it's been very disappointing as a forecast tool lately.
Everybody called it the king of the models, the European model, but one has to wonder that in this particular winter, perhaps the king has abdicated.
That could very well be. Okay, so I guess that's it. There really isn't too much else for us to talk about tonight. So let me just say that the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware of West Babylon, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue. Getting ready for any winter storms that will come our way. And don't give up. It's still only the 7th of January. There is a ton of time left
Yes.
for winter storms. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue, 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town, omnitruevalue.com. So I'm thinking no show tomorrow night, and we'll be back on Sunday morning. I'm on the road on Saturday, so it'll have to be Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern time for the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
Yeah, might as well just do a little maybe extra packing or just mentally get ready for your journey south on Saturday, Joe. And I'm sure a lot of people tomorrow night at 7 o'clock will be watching. You know, what made it interesting was that in the aftermath of yesterday's atrocity in Washington, all of the major networks went whole hog with news right on straight through until 11 o'clock last night, except for Channel 7, WABC here in New York. And what did they do? They broke away from all of this coverage of what happened at the Capitol for a half an hour. And you know what that half hour was for? 7 o'clock last night, they went over to Jeopardy
Over
for
Jeopardy.
to show one of the last episodes. Tomorrow night's going to be Alex Trebek's last episode before he passed on. Tonight, for example, they ran the Christmas Eve Jeopardy, and then tomorrow is going to be, at least in the Jeopardy schedule, Christmas Day, and it'll be the last time that we'll all have a chance to see Alex Trebek before he went on to the great beyond. So
Right.
kind of a sad thing. But I thought that was kind of interesting. I said they actually, in such a major news event, the major news day, that they actually broke away so that they could continue the sequence, the proper sequence to allow people to
Right.
see Alex Trebek in his final few episodes of Jeopardy. And as soon as Jeopardy was over last night, they went right back to
They
right
went back
to,
and yeah.
to the craziness. So
Well, all right. So we'll see you Sunday morning. Everybody, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for the 135 likes. Robert Russo, thank you for hitting Super Chat tonight. And if you're watching from the Western Carolinas, Eastern Tennessee, Northeast Georgia, Southwestern Virginia, enjoy your snowfall. And we'll see you Sunday morning.
Sunday morning.
Okay.